What are the biggest regrets of those who have reached the end of their life? In this video, I'll be sharing with you the top 5, plus also my perspective. This is Simon Lovell, bringing you growth in under 10 minutes. Stay tuned. Okay, so recently I finished reading this amazing book by Bronnie Ware called Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And I'm going to be sharing those top 5 with you today, but also give you my perspective based on where I am at my stage of my life that can also maybe help you. Maybe you're here because you are just in a place of stuckness, or you just want to get clarity or start to move your life forward in a different way. And so hopefully this video will support you. As always, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell to make sure that you get regular updates. So what is number 1? Well, the first regret of those who are reaching the end of their life is that they wanted to stay true to themselves. And I really resonated with this first one because, you know, I spent so much of my life living up to what I thought people wanted me to be, you know, or what I thought that other people wanted me to have. And so it's really important for us to distinguish between what our heart wants versus what our mind wants and what we think that society wants of us. One of the most important things that we can do is spend time in contemplation and really start to think about, am I living a life for what other people have said? For example, you should do this when you leave college, or you should do this in work, right? And we get this idea of something, but then it starts to feel off. Or are we really truly going on what is, you know, created fulfillment, or we have decided is fulfillment for us? All right. So in my life, you know, I really started to pivot away from, for example, material success and these things that these concepts that I created in my own head, versus actually going, do you know what do I get called towards, right? Because there's something that we get called towards, but maybe someone else shuts that down, or we come up with some kind of fear that shuts that down. We can't ignore the desire, we can't ignore the feeling that our heart gets pulled towards, and that creates that eruption of energy, right? Next one, number 2, which also resonated with me a lot, which is there were regrets around working so hard. And my perspective on this, which is it's really important to distinguish between, you know, working versus doing something which is fun and enjoyable, which is fulfillment. For example, I love making these videos. I love personal development. I love being in front of camera. And so for me, this doesn't feel like work. However, if we're spending so much time on work and it isn't enjoyable for us, right, then we're not fulfilled in what we're doing. So for me, I have spent a lot of time doing what I've enjoyed. However, there have also been times when I've overworked, and I've overworked because I have thought that, well, I need to hit these targets or do these certain things, and that's not actually what I desired. So now I run more of my life, and I'm definitely not perfect, right? I spend a little bit too much time on the computer, a little bit too much time on the phone, but I've really started to rein that in terms of, okay, what do I feel like doing right now? What am I called to do? And the more self-awareness that I've increased over time, I can notice whether that is me sabotaging, or whether that is me, you know, doing something because of something that's happening up here in my mind, okay? Number 3, which is the feeling and regret around non-expression of feelings. And so, once again, this one resonated because I had spent a lot of my life in this embarrassment or shame around an event that happened when I was young, and I didn't express myself. And now in my relationships, in my personal relationships, in all relationships, I have this concept of real time, which I'll talk about more in another video, which is around really expressing what I'm feeling in the moment, so that there's no distance. There's no, you know, me spending time mulling over something in my head versus actually letting it out. Now there's calmness in that expression, so I'm not shouting, I'm not, you know, raising my voice, but what I'm doing is that I'm expressing how I'm feeling in a given moment, not based on fear. And so when we allow ourselves to express, it can be extremely powerful, because otherwise sometimes we create this mental block that, I'm the only one going through this, I'll be judged. It's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear associated with non-self-expression. And as I've mentioned before, so much transformation happens through speaking up. But oftentimes what's happened is that we've maybe had some kind of trauma or something's happened in the past where we were shut down. For example, my bullying, right? I had an event that I just ended up, isolating myself, and I didn't feel safe to be able to speak up and stand up for myself. And so I had to go back in meditation and go through my healing to be able to go back and speak up, right, back in time versus, not doing it in the present moment. So the next one, which is about staying in touch with friends. And, it's incredibly important for us to regain connection and re-establish connection. That's another thing in relationships too, right? Oftentimes we've been away from our partner, or we've been away from someone, and we just need to re-establish connection. And something that I've noticed in myself, if I'm being brutally honest, is that I know that I still have work to do because I sabotage some connections and don't follow through on things that may be great ways for me to make friends, because there's a part of me that still needs to be healed, because maybe I'm going to be rejected, or maybe, it's not safe, and so I'm more aware of that, but that's just more work for me to do. And so we have to look at opening those opportunities, but also when people open those opportunities with us, we need to be able to take those and follow through and notice when we're sabotaging something. For example, one of my friends, I said to her, I noticed that I sabotage connection and I use 2 excuses, right? I'm too tired or I'm too busy. And so I gave her permission that the next time she invited me to something, if I use one of those excuses, to call me out. And she did, and then I ended up going to this event. And when we have self-awareness around something like that and give someone else permission to be able to challenge us, right, that really helps. But it takes that type of dialogue. So staying in touch with friends is really important, something that I want to get better at. And maybe you're in a situation too where, you want more friendships, you want more connection, too much time on the computer. Maybe you're in a business where you spend a lot of time on your laptop. I get what it's like. And so I'm wanting to cultivate more of that, especially as I've moved to a new area. Right? Sometimes we get comfortable and then we move and then we don't create new connections and we get isolated. Something I can definitely resonate with, that maybe you do too. Post in the comments below. I'd love to know. And the final one is just being more happy, right? And I think that ties back to number 1, for me, not being true to myself. Happiness is a choice, right? We can be in the present moment, and everything around us can help us with our own happiness. Again, it's about opportunities. It's about thinking about the things that we did when we were young. For example, I used to love improv, and so I went to improv classes. I had an inkling that I wanted to take singing lessons, so I booked that singing lesson. But oftentimes this is in a time frame that we did in the past, and sometimes maybe you're watching this video and it's like, yeah, there's certain things that I've been saying that I'm going to do that I haven't done, right? Let this video be a reminder for you that you can actually do the things that make you happy, but you've got to know what those things are. So I want you to make a list of all of the things that make you happy now, to do more of those things, but also the things that you used to do in the past that maybe you've stopped doing those things, right? Because maybe life got in the way, you started a new job, you got into a relationship. What are the things that you can start to implement that would open your world? Because I know that when we're in it, when we've done it, right? I use the example of the cinema. I don't go to the cinema a lot, but when I'm in there watching a movie, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that I made the decision to come to see this movie. Well, if we apply that principle to other things, right? I just need to get out more sometimes. I need to go onto Meetup or, onto Eventbrite and start to look at what's in the area. Notice what, excites me, put it into the calendar, and then notice whether I go or whether I sabotage it. All right? Hopefully you found this useful. Make sure that you pick up this book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. It's an amazing book. Even though I shared the main principles with you, there's so much here in the stories and stuff that will just open your mind and really make you think differently about your life moving forward. Hopefully you found this useful. Also hit that subscribe button and also the bell to make sure you get updates, and I will see you in another video. Take it easy.